Hello all, it's Mike in the edit here. Just to give you a heads up that the audio quality for this pod is not up to our usual high standards. We had a small processing error, but rather than scrap the pod completely, we thought the content was so good that we'd bring it out and let you listen. So just bear that in mind. Hopefully we'll get things back on track, ready for next week. But hey, enjoy the episode.
This shall be a day for all to remember. Let us bravely charge the fields of Azeroth, from which...
Hey, fellas! Boy, this is neato, huh?
Butters, what the hell are you doing?
I got World of Warcraft like you said.
You can't be the dwarf character, Butters. I'm the dwarf.
Well, there's only like 4 races to choose
So
from.
pick another one. I'm the dwarf, you stupid asshole. Log out, create a new character, and log back in.
I like Hello Kitty on an adventure a lot more than this.
Welcome to Chat TPK, the podcast where you get your geeky weekly fix on. I'm your host Mike, your friendly neighbourhood dungeon master, here to guide you through the ins and outs of another intriguing topic. Whether you're a seasoned adventurer or a curious beginner, Chat TPK is your go-to source for everything D&D. So, grab your dice, ready your spells, and let's embark on an epic quest together with today's wonderful guests. Our first guest for today's episode is someone who always brings the magic without using any spell slots. It's our regular go-to geek, it's Rick. Good evening, Rick.
Good evening. How you doing, Mike?
Very, very well. All the better to hear your voice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to today's pod. You're going to be bringing your encyclopedic knowledge for us today, I hope.
D&D rules have pushed out every other bit of knowledge that I could have in my head.
You live and breathe it, and that's why I have called upon you today. But you're not alone today, Rick. We have also summoned to the pod for their very first appearance someone who will look to roll with advantage on today's Christmas checks. We welcome to the pod Sellina. Good evening, Sellina.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to be here.
You're most welcome. So, have you listened to much of the pod beforehand? Or are you coming in fresh?
No, I started with your episode on the differences in ranges in the new Player's Handbook. That was my first episode, and then I went back from the bit. It was nice to find a D&D podcast that wasn't at episode 4,783 of season 8. So I thought I can do this. This is manageable.
You're jumping on the bandwagon at the beginning. Exactly. I like it. So, people at home, listeners and regular listeners of the pod will know Rick's dulcet tones quite well. And you're obviously fresh for everyone at home, Sellina. So could you give us a bit of an idea as to your sort of experience level with D&D?
I think I probably played it a bit as a kid, maybe around 9 or 10, but definitely not properly, and only with one person who was always the DM. But I kind of got into it as an adult since about February this year. So
quite recent. Fair play.
Yeah.
And what have you done in terms of have you started a campaign with people, or have you been dabbling in like the occasional one shot? How have you blooded yourself in D&D?
So originally it was with a few people from work who I'd in daily stand-ups. There'd been some jokes made, and I thought, I think we might have some D&D fans around. I wonder if there's enough to form a campaign. And we formed a campaign, and we've played one session, and then it's all gone a bit quiet. So I've discovered the joys of online campaigns with random strangers. So I've played a few one-shots, and we're a bit way through Lost Mines of... I never know how to say it.
Delver, that's a great starting one. Really good adventure. Highly recommend it to those at home that haven't played it. This pod is really mainly aimed at beginners. We are going to be having a great look in detail at how to best make a character. So we are going to be predominantly using D&D Beyond, but obviously there are other platforms out there within which you can do this. However, D&D Beyond, one of the most popular, one of the most accessible, and there is a free version of it, so you can use it. What we're going to do, because Sellina is still relatively new by comparison to myself and definitely Rick, who I think
Rick. Man now.
You are an old man. You keep mentioning 3.5, and that's something I've never actually played. So
That's true. Yeah, I have to mention it twice a pod. I'm actually sponsored by Wizards 30 years ago.
it makes you seem a lot more legit, I think, in terms of your expertise. Like people will just take your word as gospel, won't they?
Yeah, because no one's reading all of those books.
Yeah,
There's thousands of them.
You're just gaslighting everyone because actually, anyway. But yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to go through a bit of character creation, and I think Sellina's got a bit of an idea in mind as to what sort of character that she's looking to create. But along the way, me and Rick, where possible, going to give some tips and advice on what you could use and select from the many options that D&D Beyond has available to it. And then what we'll do at the end is we'll provide a link for you. So if you want to check out Sellina's character sheet, it is in the description below. If you want to check it out after we've gone through it, then feel free as well. And after you've listened to the pod, head over to our Discord and come pop in a Discord chat your own favourite character sheets. I'll be probably popping in my one. And I think, Rick, you could probably guess who my favourite character is going to be.
Someone small and weedy, right?
With the very opposite. The very opposite. It is my favourite barbarian character called Jury, who we finished our campaign last week, didn't we? Or this week, even. This week.
Yeah. Several geese.
Yes, there was a picture put on our socials of us fighting a big flock or a big gaggle of geese. Anywho, we love a good tangent here. We will go on many of them tonight, but let's get back on track. On screen, we can currently see your D&D Beyond character sheet creation, Sellina. So let's start off with the very first thing, and that's kind of the name. Have you got a name in mind for your character?
No.
That's
the only
okay.
character I play, I call a number. I call her 5. So names aren't my strong point.
And that's okay. Rick, what could Sellina do if she isn't sure on what to name their character?
Go
What tip could you give her?
Sponsored fantasynamegenerator.com.
Fantasynamegenerator.com. So that's a good website, and literally, if you go on that website, it will let you choose different names completely related to the different races. So if you're a dwarf, it will give you thousands of names for that. If you're a dragonborn, it will give you thousands of names for that, and so on. One thing that I would recommend is once you've selected your race, Sellina, we can come back to our character name, and D&D Beyond will actually offer up some suggestions as well. So you don't actually have to leave D&D Beyond to go do that. But Rick does make a fantastic point.
Is actually tied to Fantasy Name Generator with its suggestions. So if you click under the show suggestions bit in your name box, it pulls from there. But you only see one at a time, and I like to be able to read 20 and just pick one out and be like, yes, you are like. I
mean, it's an important decision, isn't it, names? But hey ho, feel free
names
to
don't last, really.
Yeah. Even though it's the very first thing on the actual order in which you create it, yeah, I would agree. It's not something I actually do first, unless I've had an idea for a name for a while. So it's up to you, Sellina. We can come back to name very shortly, or we can shove a placeholder in for now.
I could do a placeholder.
Yep. Okay. Bardy McBardface. I wonder what class you're looking to go after.
Oh, spoiler.
Probably a player.
That's okay. Must be. Now, on this page as well, Rick, what else is there to look out for, would you say? What should we be clicking?
Here, really, but your sources, once you've discussed them with your DM, you can pick what sources you're going to pull from, and partner content as well. So there's so much out there which is partner content that isn't official, just the
it's like third party, isn't
stuff.
it?
Yeah. So like Critical Role have some, Drakkenheim, Humblewood, and they're all on D&D Beyond now. So if you want a really busy, massive amount of selections to choose from, click them all. But agree with your DM first, because some things might be banned.
One thing I would probably suggest to make sure, it is currently ticked on your screen, Sellina, but sometimes it isn't automatically clicked, but Homebrew. Homebrew's a really, really good one because, say, for instance, Sellina, your DM makes you something, or you've been asked to go search on D&D Beyond for some homebrew items. Unless you have that ticked, your character cannot find it and equip it. So that's a really, really important one to make sure in your sources that you've got. Probably the last thing on here that you want to make sure is selected, because people at home will want to see this, is just to make sure that your character sheet is on public view.
Yes.
The amount of times I've had someone try and share me their character sheet and it's on like campaign only or private, and you can see it. So, but apart from that, there's not much else to really think about. I mean, coin weight, Rick, is that something most people, most games tend to stick to? I've never really stuck to coin weight, and it never really becomes too much of an issue unless you're like a millionaire, really.
Yeah, it depends. Coins are heavy. If you do click not ignore coin weight, you'll be weighed down with them pretty quick when you come up to a dragon's hoard. It depends on your realism. That's, again, talk to your campaign manager or your dungeon master.
Oh, I like that. I could be a campaign manager. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Awesome. Right.
That's how it goes on your CV.
Literally.
If you want to put D&D on there.
That makes it sound much more official and a lot less nerdy. But that's it for the first page, which is called the home page, funnily enough. But the next one we're going to look at is going to be your race. Now, what sort of character are you looking to make, Sellina? Because your race plays a big, important factor into how you play it, how you interact with others. What are you thinking?
There's a lot of choices here. So I've been a tiefling before, and that's the only thing I've ever been. And tieflings are fun, but obviously I'm thinking of something a bit different.
Okay, tieflings are pretty good. They get fire resistance, and they do originally, I think, come from like Avernus or some kind of hell. But yeah, they're a pretty good race. Massive horns, and they do stand out quite a lot. Yeah, depending on the campaign, they may not be welcome. So again, like Rick says, talk to your DM, but they're a really good race.
There's been a bit of friction in Lost Mines actually with my tiefling, but
Oh, do tell.
Oh, just every now and again, a character will say "demon woman" or "demon lady" in a very disparaging tone. But
yeah, so unfortunately, there is a lot of racism in D&D. And a lot of it is actually kind of like canonical. There are some races that hate other races. So obviously bear that in mind when you choose your race. Are you wanting them to be something that's a bit more socially acceptable?
I think so this time.
Yeah. Okay.
Tieflings are in the player's handbook, aren't they? So you can just...
They are, yeah.
Yeah. But if it's your first ever time making a character, I would say pick something from the player's handbook that you like the picture of.
Yeah.
And you can do that on D&D Beyond by clicking Game Rules, Races, and it's the top 9.
So yeah, there are 9 races that come in the PHB. Obviously, this pod is being recorded before the new PHB is being released, but typically the races are kind of one thing that's kind of being left alone. I think the only thing that is changing really with the races is the benefits that they get. They're becoming species. The actual name of it's changing, but the general mechanics behind it staying the same. I think the only thing that I can think of, Rick, you may have heard this as well, but the bonuses which you get with your race. So say, for instance, human gets a +1 to every ability score, or to 2 and to 1, or they get more ability score points to add on. Those sorts of things are being tweaked slightly and adjusted more to your background, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which makes more sense.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think you've also mentioned as well, if, for instance, you want to be, and I know, Sellina, you mentioned you've been a ranger before. Well, there's a couple of classes that are perfect for that because of the stats, the beginning like ability scores that you get with that race. So you're kind of like being kind of funneled already at the beginning to go for the half elf, to go for the wood elf, because they complement that class of ranger really well. And they're kind of doing away with that. They're letting you have a bit more customization, I think, which is really, really good.
So, what picture looks best for what you had in mind for your character?
Yeah.
Because it's brand new. I don't care about stats. We can move them around. Who cares? Never comes up after level 3.
We're not min-maxing.
Something a bit more traditional. I like the idea of a high elf. I think that sounds fun.
Quite noble, yeah. Quite typically quite knowledgeable, a race for sure. So we can go for high elf.
I'd say another that if you go to certain places will suffer from significant amounts of racism.
Oh no, really? I was trying to blend in. But...
Dwarves hate elves. Humans are like, ugh, knife ears.
Yeah. Everyone's got a bone to pick with someone, haven't they? But, I mean, there's lots of benefits. I mean, as you say, in terms of races that may also receive a lot of hate from others, I particularly love Bugbear. Well, that's not in the PHB. That is something you can pick up. Bugbear's a really, really good one. A hairy beast, but lots of cool benefits to it. And just bear in mind, Sellina, anything that we can currently access is still going to be usable when they do shift over to the new books. So whatever character you make now is still going to be completely usable for future campaigns, despite the changes that are coming. So we'll go with half elf, yeah, or high elf, should I say?
High elf, yeah.
So things to be aware of: high elf has got dark vision, which is pretty useful. Helps you see in the dark. If you are in complete darkness, it lets you see stuff around you in like slight dim light, which isn't perfect, and it's not like night vision, which lets you see it much better. But it's pretty useful anyway. It's
better than humans. I've been in campaigns. We walk into a dungeon and all the humans go, "Oh, I can't see anything."
Get a torch, yeah,
Stupid
exactly.
Humans. God.
I know.
Another thing,
they only live for like 70 years. Pathetic.
Yeah. Elves, we're talking about centuries. Another thing that elves are really good at, to back up your selection, is they have trance, which means that they can have a long rest in 4 hours, which is pretty cool as well. So whilst everyone else is getting the extra 4 hours kip, or the extra 2 or 4 hours kip, you could be doing something else like reading a book or crafting or something like that.
Drawing on their faces.
Or drawing on their faces, yeah.
Magical Sharpie, you're a Jigglypuff now.
I like it. And the final thing I can think of that really is cool about high elves is that they actually get a cantrip. They get a bit of spell casting straight from the off. So even if you are not choosing a class which is spell based, you do get some cantrips, or one cantrip should I say, from the wizard spell list. So
that's quite fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So feel free to choose one that you think you might get some use out of. What are the options for the high elf?
There's an awful lot in here. I mean, there's one called Friends, which sounds a bit desperate, doesn't it?
The funny thing about Friends is I think once you cast it on someone, don't they know, Rick, that you've cast it on them?
And they become hostile to you. It does the opposite of what it says it's going to do. It makes people your enemy.
What's this Toll the Dead? That sounds intriguing.
So, we mentioned that last episode. Rick, what's Toll the Dead?
It's a cantrip that does damage and does more damage if they've already taken damage. And every time you cast it, you have to say bong.
Bong. It sends ringing in their ears, essentially.
I think we should go for that then.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It
good.
Scales really well and gets some good damage out of it at later levels. So, yeah, good choice. We can move on probably to class then.
No, it was a bit of a spoiler there with my choice of name.
That's fine. What other classes do you know of here?
Rangers, obviously. That's the only thing I've done. So I'm quite well in the early levels of Ranger. I'm quite well versed. But and I have played games with some of them, but I do have some questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Am I allowed questions now, or are we waiting?
Yeah, of course you can.
later?
You can ask questions whenever you need to. Go for it.
So I think as a new player, when you are confronted with basic rules, player's handbook, whatever, you kind of, well, to me anyway, you see sorcerer, warlock, wizard, and you just think, what?
What's the difference?
You read the brief little description and you think, no, I still don't really understand.
Okay. So what I would say to brand new players is maybe steer clear of those three initially, because spellcasting is like one layer of difficulties. It's much easier to wrap your head around combat when you're just doing like martial characters, and then spellcasting after that can get slightly trickier. It does involve a lot more reading as well. So
Like,
for
we're
brand new
making a
players,
bard.
we are making a bard. We are making a bard, which is kind of a half cast. They are full caster, aren't they? Yeah, they are full caster. Yeah, you don't have to like lean into the spells heavily, because you can like be a college of swords bard or something. But
Okay, if you think about the sorcerer, warlock, and wizard in terms of people in school,
Okay.
sorcerers are the people who don't need to do any revision for the test, and they walk out and they go, "Oh, guys, I absolutely fluffed it," and they get full marks. Warlock pays someone else for the answers, and wizard studies really, really hard and gets good marks.
yeah. So wizards basically have a big spell book within which they learn all their spells and carry it around with them. Without their spell book, they're useless. They need so that's all their spells are generally. The warlock has like a patron, doesn't it, Rick? Which could be a devil, it could be a fae, it could be an ancient evil.
Could be ghosts in your blood. That's who my patron is.
Yeah. It could be all sorts of things. And then the sorcerer.
Not mine personally.
No, I hope. You sure? And a sorcerer, they're kind of just born with it, aren't they? A bit like Maybelline, they're born with it.
It's in their blood.
And you got some cool aspects of that. You get like a draconic bloodline sorcerer, and they kind of like half dragon, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so they're really, really powerful spellcasters. But as you mentioned, Rick, so are bards, really. But we'll come on to bards shortly. Some of the main martial characters, and when I say martial, for those at home who are not sure what I mean, it's basically the classes that use melee weapons heavily. Martial tends to be like bows, swords, axes, etc. And one of the best ones, which you might be interested in future characters, Sellina, could be a barbarian. If you're feeling actually like you want to smash stuff and get angry, then look no further than the barbarian, as it is a great class for raging and sometimes tanking as well. They are pretty beefy with their HP and their ability to reduce damage, so that could be useful. Any other classes on there that you maybe think might be good for a beginning player, Rick?
Paladin.
Okay.
You get a little bit of everything as a paladin. You get to wear heavy armor, you get to do spells, you get to fight in the front lines. And everyone knows the archetype of the holy knight who wades into battle with a sword and shield and holds the line.
Yeah.
Good for new players, I think.
Quite easy to role play, I would imagine.
Yeah.
It's quite cliche.
Forgiving. Like if you're playing a wizard and you find yourself stood on the front line with a lot of goblins at level 1, you fall on the floor and don't do anything for 3 hours while the combat drags on. But if you do that as a paladin, you go, oh no, whoops, I'm out of position. You've still got loads of stuff to get you back in the fight, or not get hit at all with your heavy armor on.
Yeah. Sellina, do you think you're the sort of person that will see a treasure hoard and be like, right, I'm having that? And are you going to be one to sort of person to share, or you're like every weapon that comes up from a monster, you're like, I'm taking that, because there are lots of players that love their loot. Do you think you're going to be one of those sorts of people?
I'd like to think that I would be more the sharing type, definitely.
That sounds very paladin. I like that. But if you ever think, oh, I like that person's axe, or I like that person's halberd, or I like that crossbow, there is one class which will let you use all of that, and that will be the fighter. So if you ever think you want to have that adaptability to the variety of weapons, then definitely pick a fighter. They're really, really powerful in terms of martial combat.
I very much thought you were going to say, if you see people's stuff and are overcome with greed, the rogue is right there.
To steal it back, yes. Yeah, the rogue is there, yeah, for sure. If you want to be sneaky, then yeah, for sure go choose the rogue. Druid, you can turn into animals, so if you love animals, then definitely look into selecting that one. Cleric is your holy priest or priestess, and they use their religion to help them draw upon their magic. And
What's weird about D&D clerics is that they're more like Warhammer priests of Sigmar, or they're not like the priests that we have where they wear a robe and a little collar and they're like, bless you, my child. They like still walk into battle wearing chainmail, a shield, and a hammer.
They're pretty badass.
Which is weird. You'd think priests would be all
docile. Yeah, that is a bit of a difference between priests in D&D and priests, I guess, in other games. Like, does Elden Ring have like a priest sort of?
Yeah, you're the guy who starts with the wooden thing around his neck.
Yeah, that's very different to what you would think of in D&D as a priest.
Aren't monks similar? Because monks aren't like any monk I've ever.
Yeah, so you think about the monks
told me he played a monk, and no,
like the Buddhist monks. Yeah, they're not very similar to that. They're more like the Shaolin monks in that they are like kung fu experts.
That's exactly what they're based on. Think Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, rather than
brown
crouching in front of an altar praying. Yeah.
They have a thing called Ki, which is like their kind of spell slot system, and that can be difficult for new players to wrap their head around. So again,
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it might not be the best one for beginners, but again, if people are willing to devote the time to just reading through it, you can technically play anyone. It's all about your character, the way you want to play it. But you want to go for Bard. What's the reasoning behind you going for Bard then, Sellina?
How do I make this sound like it's not all about Chris Pine?
Chris Pine from the Fantastic Dungeons and Dragons film where he plays a Bard.
And he plays him very well.
He does. He is a good bard in that. He does some bardy things. He plays the lute, hits people with it, doesn't cast any spells particularly.
Yeah. The only thing that annoys me about that film is when he makes that, is it a minor illusion or something?
Uh-huh.
I thought that one part was a little bit cringy, but the rest of it...
I really enjoyed that part because Simon, the sorcerer, was concentrating on the spell, wasn't he? He got his foot stuck. So it broke his concentration.
Oh, was it Simon casting it? Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, fair play. But apart from that, so your inspiration for Bard is Chris Pine. And
your bardic inspiration.
Literally. And the good thing about Bard is that they are very, very charismatic. That is their primary ability. They rely upon that to persuade people, to do performance, and it's also what their spell casting is drawn from. So as Rick mentioned, they are a fantastic spellcaster. Rick, you said last week that actually you think they're kind of on level with wizards somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely. Bards are really powerful. They've got loads of enchantment stuff going on. They've got loads of stuff they can do out of combat. Like, why fight the army of the undead all by yourself when you can rally the townspeople with a big long speech and get them to help? But I think they get great choice of spells. They're a little more limited than wizards are in terms of spell choices, but a lot of their spells in the right situation are very, very powerful.
There's a lot of variety going on, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. They're a little bit less weedy than wizards as well, aren't they? They've got a bit more.
So do wizards have a D6? Do they have a D6 guy? Yeah. And one thing that Bards have got going for them as well, Sellina, which you'll be pleased to hear, is that they have something called Jack of all Trades, which lets them have extra bonuses to the different skills. They get a +1 to, is it pretty much every skill, isn't it? So, which is pretty cool.
Sounds handy.
Allows them to add half their proficiency bonus, which at the beginning is a +1. So awesome. Right, let's choose Bard then. So we've got a high elf bard called Bard.
Is that a normal combination? Is that a normal combination? Do elves make good bards? I just wanted to be an elf.
Well, generally speaking, you choose whatever you're happy with. It's your character, but is it a typical combination? I wouldn't say no. I think it's an absolutely fine combination.
Elves have got to have bards, right? You see, if you go to the elves in Lord of the Rings, they're always fucking singing about something.
That's true.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we're selecting bard. What sort of proficiencies do you want your bard to be good at? What sort of skills do you have in mind? Because and they've got musical instrument.
Oh,
what
that's
are they going to be able to
exciting.
play?
Right.
I wish you could choose trumpet. I think that'd be a fantastic instrument to use. But I don't.
There's a lot of ones I don't even know what they are.
There are some strange ones.
There's some very strange ones. So there's all sorts of things like a tantan. Do you know what? I don't even know what it is. I want to have a
tantan is a type
sounds fun.
a drum, isn't it? Tantan.
When I googled it, it's a desert town with a population of 73,209. Were you proficient in playing a desert town?
A tantan is a hand drum. It's a hand drum sort of thing.
Oh, well, that sounds fun.
So
Okay.
a bit like a bongo drum, but smaller.
I'm just going to go for the ones with the funnest names. A zolcoon. That sounds good.
A zolcoon. What is a zolcoon?
Is that a long banjo, a zolcoon?
No, it's it looks like an accordion mixed with a trumpet.
That sounds
okay.
Awful.
Perfect.
I mean, it probably would sound awful.
I think I'm starting to put together why your elf no longer lives in the harmonious woodlands of the elves and has to go adventuring.
Yeah. You piss everyone off with your zolcoon. You can cut that out.
And the last one.
For your final one, yeah.
A shawm.
A shawm. A shawm is a bit like a recorder. It's like a. Yeah,
oh, no.
The mixture
you're
between
proficient with it, so it's not just screeching three blind mice.
I don't think you can be proficient with the recorder. It sounds the same no matter who plays it.
There are sensible instruments that you could choose as well, but I've gone for silly ones.
But who wants sensible ones? Awesome.
Indeed.
I like that instrument selection, and yeah, we could probably choose some skills and spells.
I think persuasion makes sense as a bard. If I'm skilled in persuasion, I think that sounds like a good one.
So you're typically going to have quite high charisma already, but that persuasion's going to make it even better. Yeah, performance. Yeah,
got to wow those people on the shore. Certainly.
Got to earn that coin.
Oh, and I think I'm also going to go for history. Maybe I need some, some good characters, some good knowledge in some of my songs. I think history will be a good one as well.
Okay, so history relates to your intelligence, Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's your intelligence.
So not proficient in history, I can't remember.
I thought you had an encyclopedic knowledge, Rick. But no. And one of the fantastic things about bards that you selected is that, as we have mentioned, it has got bardic inspiration, which is where you get to give, I think at the start, it's a D6 to an ally or even yourself to inspire you on an ability check, an attack roll. Can it be used for a saving throw as well?
Yeah.
Yes, saving throw as well.
Yeah. Roll saving throw.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like Bless.
Kind of, yeah. Not too dissimilar. Yeah, it's a one and done thing though. So once you've used it, it's gone. It is different to the inspiration that you're given by DM. So inspiration by DM, Sellina, is where you get to roll your D20 again. You basically get to roll with advantage whenever you want, pretty much. But yeah, that's the small difference. Right, what's next after your class?
Okay. Oh, now ability scores. This, when I was doing this, I said I found some people at work who understood. That's how we came together. It insisted that someone sat with me while I rolled my dice and told me what to do, because I was very confused, and people were talking about point buys and standard arrays, and I wanted someone to sit with me while I did it and tell me what. So
there's a few different options that D&D Beyond gives you, and you mentioned a couple of them. Point buy being quite a popular one, within which you have a certain amount of points, and the higher the scores you make in different abilities, the more points it uses up, essentially. I typically think, I don't know about you, Rick, but standard array is quite a good one for beginners because it has a set list and allows you to distribute them fairly evenly.
I agree.
And then you could probably also look to roll yourself. Now, this could be me just being very paranoid and distrusting, but if people roll for themselves, I have had some ridiculous rolls and stats for characters. So you roll 4d6 and you take the 3 highest. So the max you can get is 18. I've had some players with like 18, 17, 15, 14, 60, like really ridiculously high numbers, and like it's like the chances of that happening is quite low. So maybe that's just me being mistrusting.
If they rolled for it honestly and they got that, amazing, great to be them. Unfortunately, there's someone at the other end of the table who's rolled a 3, a 6, a 9, a 2 somehow. And absolutely sucks to be them, and they just feel like their characters are just a bag of trash that people are carrying around. So I like standard array for if you're starting a whole new party with all new people. When in standard array, everyone feels like they're even.
There's a bit more equality in it, isn't there?
Yeah.
We're all starting off the same sort of playing field. Whilst you might distribute it in different areas, you have the same numbers to be shifting around. So where do you think you would want to put them, just from your current perspective and understanding of things so far, Sellina? Where do you think would be the best place to distribute your stats?
Well, for a bard, you mentioned that they were a charisma caster, and it did talk about charisma, so I think charisma would be my
for sure.
number one. So I'd pick my 15 in that one, I think.
Okay, so we're going to go for a standard array, 15 being the highest of that. Every class has at least one ability that you want to make top or high, because it's the one that they use quite often. There also are others which you could probably call a dump stat, which is something they don't really rely upon. But, Rick, there are some roleplay reasons where you might just want to go off piece and just be a bit more random, like, maybe
what's the point in everyone being the same? Make yourself a real strong cleric or a sorcerer.
Really
really
stupid
wise.
Wizard.
Stupid wizard. Where's my book?
A wizard that can't read. but yeah.
I've had some fun in parties with people with very, very low charisma scores, like minus in their modifier for charisma, and they've been quite fun to have in the party, actually.
It can set up some really good roleplay moments for sure. So there's actually
it's quite fun to be dumb or be not very charming, because it's harder to be more smart than you are. If say your character's got a 20 in intelligence, I definitely do not, and that's quite hard. But I could go like 2 points down and have a 6 in and just be a big dum-dum all the time. That's great fun.
There's no right or wrong here. It's player preference. As long as you're not breaking the rules, have at it and do whatever you wish. So you've gone for the 15 in charisma. Where are you going to shove the rest of them?
I think they're probably quite dexterous.
Okay. Yeah, they might be good with their swords. Like you get some swords which have finesse on them, which means that they can be with dex.
And it took me some time to realise that, because my ranger had very low strength, a 10 in strength and good dex, and I was constantly afraid of ever being in melee range. And then from watching another player, I discovered and then quizzed the DM and the player about it, that actually there are melee dex weapons, such as you said, and I hadn't noticed that. That's just blew my tiny
that's
little
useful.
mind because I hadn't known that. I thought distance is dex and up close is strength, and that's what.
Yeah,
I
a lot of
thought
people
it
think
was.
like bows and stuff are just for dex and swords,
Yeah.
etc., and axes are for strength. But yeah, just look out for that finesse thing. And if you see something that says versatile, that's something that can be used either one or two hands. So that's something to also look out for. So you're on for the 14 for dex, and let's
Constitution. That's one. I don't. Constitution's got other applications, hasn't it? Because it's how tough your character is.
How tough and how healthy they are.
Yeah.
So someone with a very low constitution is a sickly little Victorian boy, and someone with a very high one is a hale and hearty
Ronaldo.
barbarian. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
someone
don't
who's
know,
like
maybe not Ronaldo.
peak physical condition.
Footballers keep falling over all the time, so
That's true.
It's like a rugby player would have a high constitution because they can take a lot of punishment and stay standing.
Yeah, that's true.
I think as a bard, if you're going to be rousing people, you need to be fairly healthy yourself. I think.
I imagine
be
as
playing-
a bard, you drink a lot, so
Yeah,
you'd
That's
want
don't
to
get poisoned. And if you're playing terrible music, you need to be able to take a punch or two, don't you? So
That's true with your recorder.
the other thing, which as a bard you use to cast spells, and lots of them are concentration based, you would need a good constitution, because when you get hit and you've cast a spell that's concentration, you have to do a concentration check, which is based upon your constitution. So you want pretty good constitution to maintain that spell. Otherwise, if you lose it, you've wasted a spell slot and it's gone, and it could really impact the fight or the situation which you're in.
I'm thinking about Chris Pine again. I got the impression. Sorry, it's a.
The man's got abs.
I don't think he's particularly. I disagree here. I don't think he's particularly wise. I don't think there's a lot of common sense going on.
Okay.
I actually agree with you, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely more intelligent than he is wise, but both of them aren't great in that film.
They're probably one of them's probably his dump stat, but he uses others well. He delegates quite well. So
He does.
He does. I think
The whole plan at the start, spoilers for the first 10 minutes of the Dungeons and Dragons film, where they're like, oh, can't wait till Jonathan gets here and he can fly us out the window, not realizing that maybe he can't actually carry two full people and fly.
yeah, for sure. Okay.
And I think we'll go intelligence, because his songs have got to be about stuff. And I think we'll go strength, number 2. That's why he's rousing other people. He doesn't need to be strong himself.
No, he doesn't, for sure. I've just had a really good idea, Sellina. So what we can also do, as well as link your the character you're currently making, as well as linking this character sheet, I will also link the bard character that Chris Pine plays. What's the character name called again?
Unknown.
Edgin.
Really?
It's a shit
Edgin.
name.
That is not a good name. Edgin Darvis. Really?
He's a monster.
I do not remember that being his name, but fair enough. So what we'll do, we'll cut that last 20 seconds out, and we'll link the character sheet alongside yours, and actually have a bit of time to compare, because we'll see how spot on the money you were, Sellina.
I'm not actually that obsessed with Chris Pine. It just came to me, but we've
No, that's
committed.
fine.
We've committed to this route.
That's it. You're obsessed.
Awesome. Let's round off this character by going on
We're
to the
going to
next page. which
unblur
I
your
believe-
background, and it's just going to be posters of Chris Pine.
Oh no!
You caught me.
Your phone background.
In my pine
Your
shrine.
ringtone is him singing. Fair play. So yeah, let's head on to I believe it's equipment next, isn't it? Oh, no, it is background. Okay. So we'll quickly go through background. This is a really good opportunity for people to go really, really in depth with their character's background, where they're from, or not. Not everyone wants to have a massive background, have a really, really in-depth backstory. That's not for everyone. but it does give you that opportunity here on D&D Beyond. So look to do as much or as little of this as you want. But choosing an option for a background is kind of important. Why? Why would someone want to pay this a bit of attention, Rick? What's the benefit for choosing the correct background for your character?
I like backgrounds because they give you something to role play off. And you can just pick your background and then ignore it, but they give you extra skills and stuff as well. But if you pick, say, fisherman, for example, then start sprinkling into when you're speaking various fish-based idioms, then...
Like fish in a barrel.
Yeah. Or, you can't always leave at high tide, something like that. It immediately puts your character in the world and makes you feel like you're role-playing them a bit more.
For sure. What do you envisage the background for your character being, Sellina?
Oh, there's some interesting ones here. My ranger character has had a criminal spy background, but I don't fancy that for this one. Well, I think let's go classic. Let's go entertainer.
Yes, very good. Does that give you some more musical instruments? I think it does. There we go. What's our final fourth instrument going to be?
Oh, I think we're going to go for a yachting.
A yachting is a stringed instrument similar to a guitar with a very long neck.
Oh, that almost sounds sensible.
That was my guess for an earlier instrument.
That's actually not too dissimilar to what Chris Pine has.
That's true. So. You can now say that you got thrown out of your home with the elves for yachting all over the place.
True. Lovely stuff. Okay, so we've got that, and fantastic. Entertainer also gives you another skill to choose. It gives you acrobatics and one other. So yeah, you're becoming more proficient at even more things, which again, the background is really good at doing that. Come the new PHB, that will be improved with an updated set of rules in which your character will follow. But yeah, that's not for another 3 or 4 weeks from the recording of this pod, of course.
I think we'll go with
insight.
Insight here, because maybe when we're crafting songs, or we're thinking, we're looking at people and we're getting an understanding of what makes them tick, and then we're putting that in the song. I think. What
would that person like to hear? A good old little jig, or something more somber and sorrowful? I like it. Perfect. And let's finish this character by going on to the equipment. So there's 2 choices for equipment.
But wait,
really.
Before you go.
Oh yeah.
There are suggested characteristics on this page,
Ooh.
which, if you like roleplay, like I do, but you're like, I don't really know what this character's about. Once you've picked your background, it gives you personality traits that you can choose from, and you can just click the little red button on the side, and they get added to your character sheet for you to refer to later.
So it does give you some ideas, it generates some ideas for you to go along with.
Oh, I think this one, I get bitter if I'm not the centre of attention. That's got to be, that's Chris, isn't it? We'll go with that one.
Sounds like me as well, actually.
And what about a hopeless romantic? That sounds like that might be quite fun from a roleplay perspective.
Very charming, suave.
Indeed.
Bard, yep.
We've got some ideals as well.
So ideals is like your principles, and your bonds is things like promises you've made, essentially, or things that you promised to do.
I think we'll be neutral, but liking to see the smiles on people's faces when we play our yachting, or I can't remember the name of their instruments. They were so.
And that's another thing in terms of alignment, Rick. What are the options for that, and does that play a big deal in how you should play your character?
Not anymore, really. So it used to be, because it's sponsored mention of D&D 3.5 or earlier editions of D&D.
You played 3.5, really?
Yeah, I don't know if you know this about me. I didn't even play it that much. I just obsessively read the books.
I hail to your knowledge.
But it used to be that if you weren't playing to your alignment, the DM would punish you and take things off you, and it could change and things like that. But it's not really as important anymore. Like, you can be good and commit evil acts, but your DM might be like, smack on the wrist, you're supposed to be a good guy. But you can be good, neutral, evil, lawful, neutral, chaotic. in that order. It's like a cross. And people sometimes show it as a grid. You might have seen them in the memes, where chaotic evil is people that throw the toilet roll out the window, and lawful good is people who fold it into a little triangle for the next person. And then you've got everything in between. Alignment doesn't super matter anymore, I don't think. No. If you're good, you do what will improve the world. If you're evil, you do things that'll be good for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And neutral, you do a bit both, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so again,
I've gone with neutral for that one.
Yeah, no problem.
I think
that kind of suits a bard.
I think the bond, my instrument, is my most treasured possession. All four of them. I seem to have a lot of instruments. But we'll go with that one. That makes sense. And
you've got flaws as well, which is a pretty cool one to have. I think it's always nice for your DM to know your flaw, because then they can, or your biggest fear or something, because they can look to try and include that within the campaign.
I agree. It's nice for you to have a flaw to refer to as well, because the temptation with your first character is to be like, well, no, they are both me and perfect, so then I'm going to skip the flaw. But having a flaw can make some really good inter-party moments later on.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we've alluded to this one's flaw before. A scandal prevents me from going home again.
Yes, you have left your home from yachting too much. Awesome. Okay, right, what's left then, Sellina, to do?
Equipment. Starting equipment.
You've got two choices here. You could either select from the recommended equipment that it wants to provide your class, or you can literally just take the gold and look to buy stuff. It kind of is up to you. Talk to your DM about this, because this could be something that he would prefer you to choose, one or the other. Also, sometimes your DM, depending what level you're starting your campaign at, they may say, right, you can start with a magic item or like a rare item if it's a high level sort of thing. So yeah, talk to them about that. Rick, if you're starting a level 5 adventure and you're been told you can start with an uncommon item or something, what do you think might be useful for a new player to gravitate towards using to help them make the best start possible? What do you recommend?
For this character, probably an instrument of the bards of some kind. Yeah. It helps you bard more. That's it, really. But it's an instrument that's also a spellcasting focus that you can cast some spells through. It makes your bard bardier. I probably wouldn't go for like a +1 weapon or like +1 armor or something like that, because it's like a passive effect. And passive effects are kind of boring.
They are.
Well, they're not boring. They just don't come up. I'd like to see something where you can go, oh, I've got my +2 bunny bracelet, and it helps you do something.
So I've had this issue before in that someone said they wanted like a +1 greatsword. And when you're playing an adventure where there's lots of enemies that are resistant to bludgeoning, slashing and piercing damage from non-magical sources, that kind of like instills a bit of a challenge at the beginning. But as soon as they got that magical weapon, that +1, it kind of makes it all that little bit easier and not as scary. So yeah, I might steer clear of +1 weapons at the beginning initially. Anyway, I think you kind of need to earn that sort of item. But yeah, something like a cloak of billowing wouldn't go amiss. I think that would really help with your performance as a bard, because you can basically activate it and it just almost like there's a big gust of wind blowing your cape. Sellina, cloak of billowing is a personal favourite of mine.
That does sound fun.
They are. Oh, a bag of tricks. Take a bag of tricks.
Bag of tricks. Bag of beans. So I think that's quite high level, actually. But yeah.
Problem solved. Take a bag of tricks. It's full of fluffy little balls that turn into animals.
Oh.
Yeah.
That does sound good.
Like Pokemon. Awesome, lovely stuff. So we have made a wonderful high elf bard for you there, Sellina. Are we sticking with Bardy McBardface?
Probably not. We should probably change that, shouldn't we?
Well, listeners at home, click on the link and have a look at what Sellina has decided to call it, and hopefully you'll enjoy seeing her character sheet and getting some ideas from our conversation as well. Be sure to share on the Discord your own character sheets, and we can discuss the strengths and weaknesses and why you've chosen that, and yeah, just having a good conversation about it. That'd be fantastic. So join us in the Discord to do that.
I feel like Sellina made this character and we interfered.
Yes.
I don't think we have.
You've made lots of wrong decisions here, Sellina. I'm very disappointed. No, you've done it.
We
You've done a
just-
stellar job.
Made it more difficult for her by going on tangents.
She's got 2 Zolcoons. She's playing them out her nose. Isn't there a bloke that played like the John Cena song with 2 recorders out his nose? Have you seen that video? Is that just me?
I've not seen it, and
Okay.
I don't think I want to.
Yeah, it's just,
Maybe I do.
One
Maybe
of those silly little memes.
some morbid curiosity would make me watch it. But
Just
we've
out of
missed
curiosity.
something.
We haven't
This
missed the
whole
weapon
time.
that they've chosen.
No, we've missed spells.
Oh, we've missed spells, of course. Well, let's just quickly choose the weapon. What weapon did you go for?
I went for a
Was it
rapier.
A rapier, yeah, that's a good finesse weapon.
That's the
That
dex
will
one,
use
isn't
your
it?
dex. Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed.
Nice. Good choice. That's very good for a bard. And let's quickly finish off this character then before we have a quick break and look at what spells you're going to take. That's in
Where
your
does spells
class
live?
area.
It's a sneaky hidden thing. So next to
see,
class
class
features,
features.
there is a spells
Oh.
drop down. That's it.
Subtle. You currently have no known spells.
As a bard, you get to have a couple of cantrips as well. As a high elf, you've already got one.
I've already
You get
got
some
one,
more.
haven't I?
Yeah. Rick, what is the most bardy spell you can think of?
Cantrip wise,
Or just-
prestidigitation.
Yeah, to clean things and to make noises and yeah.
It does
That one.
all the stuff that you would think that a street performer would do.
Oh,
Makes
yeah.
arcs and yeah, that'd be good for performance. I would probably say something like vicious mockery for me.
Oh,
Or-
that's a mean one.
It's
Oh,
good
I-
against enemies though in combat. So you can just say a joke or have a go at someone and it will make that attack.
Gives them disadvantage.
Gives them disadvantage on attack
Oh.
and it also does psychic damage. So that's a pretty
Damage
cool one.
and disadvantage. Okay.
Not a
All
great
right,
deal of damage. 1d4.
You persuaded me.
That's my charm person working.
In a bard coming through.
You talked about disguised self on the podcast, I think, when you were talking about the magic items, and there was
yeah.
the hat of disguise or something.
That
and you're like,
that's
"You
some
could just
knowledge.
disguise self."
That is a true regular listener right there. Thank you, Sellina.
Well, I had to make up for missing the thing from the episode you just did on Monday, so I
Yeah,
thought I'd better redeem
that's fair.
myself.
I really like disguise self as a spell to have, especially
Good
if
role
you're
play
good
elements.
if you're good at deception as well, and you've got high charisma, so you can trick your way into places,
fun.
provided people don't notice the 2 Zulcoons on your back and be like, "Hang on."
You're that bard that plays his old coons out his nose.
Oh, and I like the idea of healing word. I saw that used once. I think that's very cool because you don't have to touch them, do you? You can see them across the battlefield, and it's that one.
I actually think it's the best healing spell, really, because it's range, and I just use it for getting people up.
So one of my least favorite parts of D&D is that healing's not worth it unless you're already unconscious. Really,
Yeah, which is
healing's
where healing
getting
comes in.
better.
It is. They're upping the
not
amount of
by
hit
much.
points that you get from potions and from cure wounds and stuff. But yeah, we've had a really good look through this. Again, feel free to look at the character sheet and share your own.
choice.
But I think what we'll do is we'll just take a very, very short break. Okay? See you shortly. Okay, welcome back. And what we're going to do for the last little section of this pod is just have a quick look at the character sheet that Sellina has made and then just discuss a few of the things that we think is really strong about it. And also, Sellina might have a few questions for us as well at home before we say cheerio for another week here on the pod. So, Sellina, Bardy McBardface is looking pretty good. What stands out to you initially from your character sheet? Because there are a few things that I can see that I think looking pretty good.
I've got a nice +3, and a +3 in initiative, which having
Yeah.
a high initiative frightens me a bit, actually, because that means
Does
I may
mean you have to
go
decide
first.
quite early on in the
Yeah.
combat with what you're going to need to to be doing. Yeah, that's fair play. But it does mean you get to act first, which in some situations is usually quite beneficial. So yeah, a good initiative. Anything, Rick, that you can see on Bardi McBardface's sheet that you think
Yes.
worth?
And this
worth a
is
lot?
something that happens all the time to everyone whenever they make their first character. You need to go to your inventory and equip all of your things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay. Good shout. So
Otherwise, you
dagger,
can't see in your actions
leather.
what your plus to hit is,
Yeah.
what the damage is. And yeah, that is one thing that a lot of people do forget to sometimes do, and that is to equip their weapons. To equip
Also
armor
changes
as well.
your armor class. Yeah, there you go.
That's better, isn't it?
Nice.
Yeah.
Raised
14
your
isn't
armor
too bad.
class. You've got stuff to hit people with now. It's not all just hanging out your backpack. Perfect.
+5 is good, isn't it? I'm liking that.
Yeah, at level 1, the +5 is not too bad with the dagger. 9 hit points on this character. It's not
Ouch.
great, but it's not terrible. It's not terrible. That could be one hit by some creatures within a.
Yeah, but you're level
one.
1.
But
You're not going to get much more than 9, even if you absolutely went for it and got yourself a +2 maximum in Constitution. You only
yeah,
have
I
10.
mean, a barbarian might be on a 14 or something, or a 13 or 14. But yeah, so it's not going to be that much higher. So yeah,
But as a bard, persuade tougher people to stand in front of you.
yeah, exactly.
That's the point of them.
You're typically more of a supporting class anyway, aren't you? You're not really in the front lines, so that's fair enough. Things also to be aware of is that you're immune to magical sleep. So if someone tries to cast sleep on you, it isn't going to work, and that's all down to your high elf immunity. So that's pretty cool. That's another little tick in the box on the strength of your character sheet. Other things to look out for.
Stats and saving throws. So I'm just going to go over these really quickly. Stats at the top. Your modifier is the big one, and your score is your little one. You'll be asked for that sometimes. And then saving throws are in the bottom the box below your stats to the left. You have plus your proficiency in some saving throws. So don't just roll your base stats when someone asks for a saving throw. Click the little box.
Yeah.
It's like looking at a hieroglyph the first time you open your character sheet.
There is a lot going on, and to be fair, I have done this with children before in my school after school clubs. So if they can wrap their heads around it eventually, I think the majority of people can. But it is just that initial shock of like, what on earth am I looking at? There's a lot going on for sure. In terms of the skills, there's quite a few of them. You will notice that they all have next to them like Dex, Wiz, Intelligence, because all these skills are linked to your abilities. So generally speaking, if you've got high intelligence, all of the skills that are intelligence based will typically be quite similar as well. And then if they've got a little dot in next to them, it means you're proficient, it means you add your proficiency bonus. And if they've got a bullet point dot, it's a bit different to the one. I don't know how to describe it, Rick. It's like a ring with a dot in, isn't it?
It's like a solar eclipse.
Yeah, that means you have expertise in it, and that doubles your proficiency bonus. So those are the skills that you're really, really good at. And you typically see expertise in things like rogues and I think you can
bards
get it
later.
in bards as well, yeah. So
Isn't
later on.
That's changing, isn't it, in the new
PHP.
handbook? Yeah.
Expertise. I'm not sure expertise is. You're going to be able to do weapon mastery. That's going to be slightly different in terms of learning how to use weapons.
There are more ways to get expertise in the new book. A lot of backgrounds are giving you feats that give you expertise and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Sellina, what weapons are you currently proficient in?
I am currently proficient. So down in this box here, it talks about hand crossbows, longbows, long swords, rapiers, short swords, and simple weapons.
Pretty good mix of weapons. Now, anything that's not on there, that does not mean you can't use it. You're still able to use it. So one, for instance, that's not on there would be a great axe. You could use a great axe. You just won't be able to add your proficiency bonus to it, which would make it a bit harder to use. So you wouldn't be as good at it. So it's just general rule of thumb, use stuff that you're good at, essentially.
I would say as well, the best way to understand a character sheet is just to play with it for a while. Start the game and go, oh, you've asked me to do this. Where the hell's that? What shall I do? And after you've played for a couple of hours, then you'll be all right. You won't need help anymore.
Trial by fire. Yeah. Not a bad tip at all. So generally speaking, I think this is like a pretty good start for a barber. I wouldn't say that this is something. It's got no real weaknesses here. I mean, it's got low wisdom, but again, does a barb need a lot of wisdom? I wouldn't say so.
I think that's quite characterful based on the instrument proficiencies. Put absolutely everything into learning the Shawm, the Tantan, the Yarting, and the Zulkun with absolutely no foresight.
So that opens up a host of good roleplay opportunities there.
Because you're an elf as well. You could be like 200 years old. Having been like, I spent 50 years on each of these instruments now. I'm going out into the world and everyone's like, what the hell are those?
Awesome stuff. If you have any comments to make on Sellina's character sheet, then feel free to pop them in response to this pod, either on our social medias or on our Discord, and let us know. And as I say, we'll be comparing it to your inspiration, kind of, which was Chris Pine's character. Is it Edgin? Edgin, I think it was.
Apparently.
Edgin definitely rolled for his stats and no one was looking.
What?
14,
just out of curiosity,
16,
what?
14, 16, 18.
What level is he though? He's probably quite high.
17?
A level 17? Oh, fair play. Okay. Oh, good to know. I'll be checking it out after we finish recording. But yeah, I think that's a good point to end the pod, where we've got a character made, which is what we set out to do, and hopefully you've got some tips from us in the process, Sellina. Just to end things, any questions at all as a new player about your character or about any character that you're going to make in future?
What kind of party would my bard fare best in, do we think?
Any. Bards are so versatile. Yeah, bards could be a good part in any party, just because of the different types of spells that they can pick up. When you get high levels, you could choose a subclass that could complement it a bit more. Say, for instance, you haven't got much of a healer. There are some subclasses which give you more access to healing spells or buff spells. If you haven't got many people on the front line, maybe you choose a subclass which is better with swords or something like the College of Swords. So bards are just really good at pretty much everything. They're not the best at anything really, but they are really good at lots of things. So actually,
I disagree. I think they are the best
here we go.
at talking to and interacting with the world.
Yeah. No, I would agree
inside
with that,
civilized areas mostly, but also outside of civilization. If you meet, I don't know, like a dryad or a bear that can talk for some reason, you'll be the one that goes
like Yogi Bear.
Whoa! Let's not fight here. Let's talk about this, and you'll be able to diffuse situations before they happen. So maybe you wouldn't fit into a party that was entirely other barbarians, but also maybe you would. If they get in over their heads, you can be like, look, we've all had a
de-escalate it. Yeah. Awesome.
I'm not sure my bard would get on with my ranger.
No.
I think he'd wind her up with his instruments and his
We're supposed to be sneaking around this woodland, and you keep tooting.
You keep yarting.
Yarting.
Oh dear. Well, if anything, you've opened our eyes to some fantastic new instruments, which I'm going to go on YouTube and just see how they sound very shortly. So, but it's been wonderful as always, Rick, to have you and your expertise join us. And Sellina, this being your first pod appearance, thank you very much. Hopefully the first of many. We'll see you again soon. And people at home, if this is your first pod that you're listening to us, be sure to follow us on Spotify or the podcast platform of your choice. We also have YouTube, where we upload our video content, and as I've mentioned about 20 million times, Discord, come join us on there and chat to us there. Okay, so last thing for me to do today is to wish you all a healthy and happy week, and a big thank you to my guests. See you all soon.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Adios.